Welcome, everyone, to It Tastes Different Gaming Podcast, the podcast with 4 different flavors coming from 4 different gamers. I am your host, Patrick Smith, and I want to welcome my co-hosts, Nick Irwin, Shane Eisterhold, and Russell Rowe.
Hey, Patrick. Where can they find us?
Well, the first place you should check out is our website at ittastes.different.com. This is the place where you can subscribe to all of our streams and connect to all of our social media sites. You can also find us on Facebook at It Tastes Different. We're also on Instagram at It Tastes Different PC. And then last but not least is Twitter, where you can find us at It Tastes Diff. What's for dessert? We pop some Tide Pods and discuss video game addiction. This is kind of going to be an interesting topic because we're just going to be like giant forum style here with this, guys. It's pretty much, I'm sure we all know somebody or ourselves at one point or another maybe suffered from this, or maybe you don't believe in this. So we're kind of going to go around and talk about, video game addiction, your thoughts on it, because I think pretty much that most of the world views, there's probably a preconceived notion about gamers, right? I mean, when you tell somebody you're a gamer, or when you talk about gamers with somebody, most of them probably think of kids, right? I mean, if you talk about gamers, most people probably think of kids. They probably don't picture, our age people, mid-30s, mid-40s people playing video games. That's just not what's normally most people think about, unless they think you're addicted to video games. I mean, I may be way off on base, but I think that's what the majority of people out there think when you tell them you're a gamer. They probably think, there's something wrong with you or something like that.
We grew up with it,
Right.
I mean, that's the thing is, for our age is when video games exploded, basically. And so we grew up with that genre, that type of video game collection, video game playing, that, as we grew in age, it continued to stick with us. So I don't know if I find it really more of for me personally, I don't really find it an addiction. You could say the same for people that are into movies or into books or into really any sort of hobby. I find it more of a hobby type thing. I guess it would be an addiction if, you spend your life savings and you can't afford bills and things like that because you're buying video games or spending money on video games. That I think that would consider to be an addiction at that point.
Okay. So that's that's probably a good place to start. Why don't we all say what we think that term means? So Nick just gave us his definition. Russ, why don't you tell us, what do you envision the word, or what do you think video game addiction is?
Well, I had actually done a little research before we started talking. I don't know if you want me to get what I think or...
I want what you thought.
Okay, because we're going to have to come back to me because I did the research and I want to let everybody know what the WHO, and no, Shane, it's not the group, it's the World Health Organization, has actually recognized it as a gaming disorder. So anyway, so what I think it is, I believe that if it's something that interferes with your ability to do your daily life, it disrupts the ability for you to take care of your responsibilities. I think those two things really define to me in a very general sense what an addiction is. And we could talk about daily routine or your responsibilities. Responsibilities could be a very broad subject when I say that. It could mean financial responsibility, family responsibility, and those other responsibilities, those are the two key ones, but I could go on and on with the list, but those two main responsibilities is what I'd like to start with. But if you're, it could be in kids, it could be your schoolwork, it could be your chores, it could be, if it's interrupting what your responsibilities are in your life, I believe that's a key indicator. Shane, what about you?
Shut up, I'm playing a game.
There you go.
No, I mean, you basically hit it. I mean, if you have to have a poop sack just because you don't want to get away from your game, that's an addiction. If, you stink to high heaven because you ain't got time to take a shower because you're playing a game, it's an addiction. And if you're damaging your body, physical, mental, just to play Halo or WoW or whatever, that's an addiction. It's hard to say what really is an addiction. I'm not a, scientist or somebody smart at all. But if you're willing to sacrifice daily routines that need to be done, you're addicted. But it's like me. I take care of all my business. I take care of my job. Take care of my family. And then when it's my game time, it's my game time. I'm not out drinking. I'm not out doing stupid crap. I'm sitting at the house playing games. My kids play games with me. We're a gaming family. We play board games and stuff like that at dinner and whatnot. So I don't think we have a game addiction, but there are people out there that the South Park episode where they're playing World of Warcraft. That is a definition of a game addiction right there. When you see Cartman just can't even breathe because he hasn't gotten out of that chair in the last, 6 months, that's an addiction. But, how people perceive a game addiction, though, is misunderstood, in my opinion. I think most people, when they say, "Oh, you play games," at any age, they think, "Oh, well, you're just an addicted or something like that." Because a lot of people think that. Me and my wife, once in a while, should be like, "Oh, you're playing that. You should have been fixing something." Well,
I was going to say, Shane, your wife probably disagrees with you. You're addicted.
No, I don't think she thinks I'm addicted. I think she thinks I need to do stuff that she wants me to do. At times I want to do other stuff, which is play a game.
So I will be in agreement with the majority of that. I would honestly say a game addiction is just like any addiction. If it's disruptive to yourself or others around you, then it's an addiction. But at what point, what somebody considers a disruption to themselves may not be up to somebody else's. So just like any addiction, there's going to be somebody is going to classify it. And Russ has already found something where there's a classification of what's considered it. So, we'll come back to him and hear some of that. But I mean, it's all, I don't know. It's hard to explain because you hear about addictions and everything in life. There's addiction to food. There's addiction to drugs. There's addiction to sex. There's an addiction to everything. There's addictive personalities and stuff like that. So, I mean, when you take into consideration those things, let's think about like an addiction to food. So people just eat and eat and eat until they become so large that there's medical issues. They're harming themselves and those around them have to take care of them, and et cetera. There's addiction to drugs to where that people basically lose their life and health and everything else because of they can't stop doing the drugs and all that stuff. And then there's like, all kinds of different addictions. And basically they all end with being harmful to yourself or to others to some extent, doing things that are harmful to yourself or others. And, and I will say that I don't consider myself to have an addictive personality. I don't drink. I mean, I do drink, but I don't drink like every day, all day, every week. I'll have drink every now and then. I don't smoke, never smoked in my life, and I've tried it a few times. It's not for me. I don't, I'm not a huge drug user. I don't go out and snort a line or any of that kind of stuff all the time or anything like that. And, and I don't, my biggest addiction probably would be food, right? My biggest addiction is probably to food. I like food, but it's not, I'm not going to let it get to the point where I'm on like my 400-pound life or something like that. But I'm overweight, and it's because food's good, and I like to be fat and happy. I would prefer not to be fat and still be happy, but you can't eat chocolate cake and be a supermodel. So,
excuse me,
chocolate cake.
So I like that stuff too much. I enjoy the food. I enjoy cookies and stuff like that, but I wouldn't consider what I do an addiction. I have proven to myself that I can lose the weight. The problem is that I'm unhappy when I am living a very restrictive lifestyle. And if I'm going to die at 40 or 50, I want to be happy. I don't want to be looking back and being like, I was so unhappy. I should just eat the darn cookies, or something like that. So, I guess addiction it can be classified, but it's different for everybody else. And when we get back to story time, I will give you stories of what I consider were gaming addiction times in my life, because I'm pretty sure I went through it. whereas we all might have especially when we were younger. So, going back to Russ, do you want to jump back on the bandwagon of what you found?
Yeah, let's do this. So, first off, the WHO, again, Shane, the World Health Organization.
Who are you?
Who's on first?
So, they have added that disorder to the ICD-11. For those that don't know, that is the International Classification of Diseases. Underneath that, it has actually a couple of different categories. Number one has gaming disorder, which is predominantly online. And we have a gaming disorder that is predominantly offline. And then, of course, they have the unspecified gaming disorder. So just reading you the description real quick, gaming disorder is characterized by a pattern of persistent or recurring gaming behavior, digital gaming or video gaming, which may be online or offline, manifested by 1, an impaired control over gaming, onset, frequency, intensity, duration, termination, and context, an increasing priority given to gaming to the extent that the gaming takes precedence over other life interests and daily activities. Continuation, this is the third part of it, the continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. The pattern of gaming behavior may be continuous or episodic and recurrent. The pattern of gaming behavior results in marked distress or significant impairment in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. The gaming, in the last little bit here, the gaming behavior and other features are normally evident over a period of at least 12 months in order for a diagnosis to be assigned, although the required duration may be shortened if all diagnostic requirements are met and symptoms are severe. So 12-month period. That might help with story time.
Oh, that who?
So just that tack onto that, I would consider that means that every one of us is addicted to video games.
Well, I mean, I think that's a little overkill.
No, I don't, because you don't have to meet all the criteria in that. You have to meet a percentage of the criteria, right, Russ? It says probably like when I looked at the WHO organization, they basically said over a 12-month period, if you partner or a friend have 5 or more of those signs, you are considered to have a problem. And so let me just go through some of this list with you guys, and I want to hear from each of you if you think this is a sign of you. You think about gaming all day or a lot of the time. Nick?
Yep.
Shane?
I'm thinking about sex, sorry.
Honestly, though. You think about video games pretty often?
Depending on the time of year, but yeah, quite a bit.
Russ?
I think I'm on the no side. Yes, I think I'm on the no side. I don't think about it near as much as you guys.
I would
do
say
think
yes
about
to
it.
That one.
But you have a sex addiction, so it's different.
Right. I think about it all the time.
I do too. And what I mean by all the time is it doesn't mean like 24/7. It just says about gaming all or a lot of the time. And I would consider that a lot of the time because, we even have a sneaking podcast about it. That's how much we think about and play games. Yeah. I mean, and we play one new game a week. Yeah. So, okay, so that's that one. Feeling bad when you can't play. I will say I don't feel bad when I can't play. But if I had planned to play and I didn't get to play, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have got to play. So, Nick, do you feel bad when you can't play?
I would agree with what you just said. I don't feel bad when I can't play, but I feel bad when I am planning to play and cannot.
All right. Shane?
I want to play. No, it just depends what I was playing. If it was a plan to play, like, we're going to do a group night, I'm going to be upset if something comes up we can't play.
Gotcha. And Russ?
Pre-30, yes. Post-30, no.
Okay. So I'm going to probably just kind of skim through these. So here's a good one. Using gaming to ease a bad mood and or feelings. And I would say yes, because I use video games as an escape. Nick?
Yep.
Shane?
Oh, hell yeah.
And Russ?
Yeah, I'll say yes to this one.
Okay, that's why I'm picking these, because I'm just trying to get to 5. I will say no to this one, but lying to people close to you about how much time you spend playing games. While dating, the answer is yes. but currently, no. For me. Shane?
No, because I don't care what anybody else thinks.
Russ?
No, I don't lie about it.
Truthful and honestly.
No, I do not.
And I'm calling bullshit this one.
I'm going to have to say bullshit too.
Because I honestly do not believe you tell the people that you are dating how much time that you spent playing games.
I'm going to say the last person I was not 100% honest, but every person I've dated since then, I do talk about board gaming and gaming quite a bit. I have put that out there.
So you're being more truthful. And Nick?
When it comes to dating,
or anybody in general. It's anybody. I was just saying that's what my experience is. I don't lie to like my friends or my family or anything about that. But when I was dating, when I was younger, I would omit details about it. So that's guilty by omission, you know. But
when
now
I
in my current life,
when I was dating, when I was younger, yeah. But now, no, I don't care.
Let's see here. So we all kind of did that.
Not me. I was innocent.
How about, this one here I'm going to say, not being able to quit or even play less. I would say that's not a problem with me because I've gone extensive my life without playing. And I can still do that now. It's just I like gaming, so I don't think that one is me. How about you, Russ?
Of course, I didn't have internet for like 8 months.
Right, of your life.
Survived through
it. Shane?
I don't think I could go for more than 3 weeks without playing a game, really.
Right. I mean, I guess the more question is, I could play less, and I think I can quit, but I don't want to quit. And
I could play less, but I couldn't quit because I enjoy what gaming gives me.
Nick?
Yeah, the same. I mean, there was a stint earlier in my life where I did go for like a year without really playing anything.
Yeah, but luckily you divorced that.
Yeah. So, after that, no.
So, I mean, Russ, could you quit gaming?
Oh yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
You would give it up permanently in your life?
If it was the right like
reason to quit.
Yeah, I mean yeah, I mean I think I could if it had to be for the right reasons. I mean I just about gave it up. No pun intended.
Cool. So there's a lot of ambiguity here. So how about this one? Not wanting to do other things that you used to like. And to me, that's a loaded question because I used to like to drink a lot, but I play games now instead of doing that. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I used to like going out more, but I would rather play video games now. So I guess I'm going to have to say yes to that one. Not wanting to do other things that I used to like, but rather gaming. So I'm going to say yes to this. Russ, right?
I mean, I don't know. Does somebody else have an answer first? Because this one's got
that's a load. That's a kind of a load.
It doesn't matter, but this is one of the questions. If you hit 5 of these within a 12-month period, then you are addicted according to them. And I think we've already hit that, but
No, I mean, I used to like sex, but I got married. I mean, that doesn't, just because you change from one thing that you enjoyed to another, that doesn't mean you gave up on it. It's just grown away from something.
I'm going to make a point with all these, but I just, so Nick, what about you?
No, I still do what I like to do. It was just a game.
and that's true. I mean, that's how me and Nick, met, was discussing games, and I mean that's what we do. But
that's how we all met.
The thing is, I still love golf.
Exactly. I think me and Nick are the only ones that didn't meet through gaming.
Yeah.
But gaming is why we're friends, because we met at work, and now we're gaming because that's how we still hang out with each other.
I think that's kind of a BS question because, I mean, we all like golf. I mean, we all like to play golf. But have we ever
but
said
golf with friends is not fun?
No. Golf with friends is not fun for you.
But my interest here is to see what Patrick's point is, because I think I know where he might be leaning to, and I would like to have a counterpoint if he's going where I think he's going.
Okay. So the next one is having problems at work, school, or home because of gaming. Now, I will say now in my current life, that is not a problem. I have my work priorities, I have my home priorities, and I have my gaming priorities, and they don't conflict. Early on in my life, the answer to that was yes. I played games at a detriment to school, I played games at a detriment to my personal life and to a work life. So how about you, Nick? Now, currently, maybe past, yes?
No, never.
Nope, never.
I always make sure my stuff was done.
Okay. Shane?
Same here. I always had priorities for myself, and if I didn't set those priorities though, I probably would have, worked through some things I shouldn't have. But
Okay.
no,
Russ?
I never did.
No, I'm in agreement with Patrick. Probably the same with me. Early on, it did. I mean, it's not story time, but real quick, I played Mortal Kombat 2 for 3 days straight and missed every single class in those 3 days. So yes, early on, I did.
And I will honestly admit, I haven't done this in a long time, but I have called in sick to work to play a game because I didn't take off and I didn't realize or didn't take off PTO. I have done that. So, I mean, if you want to consider that having a problem, I guess you can.
I wouldn't consider that.
But that's an item though. I had a problem and my solution was to call in sick to work. I had the game.
But did your work suffer from that? Did your work not get completed?
Yes, because I didn't do it because I didn't work.
So you didn't go the next day and take care of whatever needed to be done?
No.
Whatever was supposed to be done that day just didn't get done.
Right.
That's okay.
My responsibilities for that. Well, I mean, it could be anything. When I was younger, I worked in fast food. Nothing. I put them in a bind because I called in sick.
Yeah. Well,
nowadays though, my job is if I didn't do it, if I called in sick and didn't do it, I have to do it the next day because nobody's going to do it. That's just the way work life is now. But I'm talking about anytime. So
yeah, and that I understand.
And then the next one was playing despite these problems. If you were having school problems or work problems, you would play besides these. And I would say I did at one point. If I have problems at work now, I play games because that's my relief from work. If work is stressing me out, that's my getaway from everything. Yeah. If I'm having a bad day at work, I'm having a bad day at work, I will come home and be like, I can't wait to play this game just so I can escape. So, there's all these things. And just my point is that this is all so ambiguous to the point of, I can probably tick off most of these. The first one, thinking about games a lot or all day. I do that. Feeling bad when you can't play? No, I would feel bad if I planned to play and didn't get to play. Needing to spend more and more time playing to feel good? I don't feel that one has to happen. I play the same. Not being able to quit or even play less? I would say yes, I don't want to quit. So play yes, I can do yes. So I've ticked off 2. Not wanting to do other things that you used to like. I'll tick that off as 3 because that's me. Having a problem at work or school because of gaming. I have not had one in the last 12 months, but I have. So there's another one. There's a 4th tick for me. Despite these problems, you played. Of course, that's why I played. Lying to people in my past, yes, I have to hide how much I played. Using games to ease bad moods, of course. So I ticked off the majority of that list. But I do not consider that I am addicted to gaming. I consider gaming my hobby, and it's something I enjoy and something that I have fun with. The amount of gaming that I'm doing doesn't affect my life to that extent. I have a good job. I have a girlfriend. I have a daughter. I have a house. I have a car. I have all these things that a normal person would have, but according to this list, I have a video game addiction.
We'll take you and get you some rehab.
I don't want rehab. Rehab's for quitters.
Well, so those general questions are, what probably some people use in order to see or to try to define it. But I think the biggest part of the descriptor that I read was the pattern of gaming behavior results in marked distress or significant impairment in personal, family, social, education, occupational, or other areas of functioning. I think we all can relate to a time where maybe it did that. At least me and Patrick would be willing enough to say, yes, there is a time in my life where that happened, but definitely not in the last 12 months. Definitely not in the last, 10 years. Yeah, 10 years probably. So, to each his own in defining it, but we all can at least relate, empathize, and understand how this could happen to somebody.
Yes. I mean, I guess maybe how it relates is, I guess it maybe is story time. So I'll go first and somebody else maybe want to, but when I was in my 20s, I worked a rather menial job for a trucking company and made good money and had a roommate and had a girlfriend, had all this stuff. I played video games a lot. And what I mean a lot is I worked a shift where I worked 3 12-hour days and a 6-hour day. What that means is that Friday night I went in at 6 p.m. and got off at 6 a.m. Saturday morning, did the same thing Saturday and Sunday, and then on Monday I went in at 6 p.m. and got off at midnight. And I didn't have to go back to work until the following Friday. So I basically had off like 3, almost 4 days when you consider that type of a schedule. You know, I was off Monday at midnight. So basically Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday didn't have to be back into work till Friday at 6. I would game all that time. And then even when I did my 3 12-hour shifts, I would still get off work at 6 o'clock in the morning and get some game time in and then go get a few hours of sleep and then get up and game a little bit more before I went back into work. All this to say is how I knew it was an addiction was because I had a girlfriend and I would rather play games than be with my girlfriend, who eventually moved in with me. I mean, this is how bad it was, is that, you know, she was with me during this whole time. We dated for 8 years or something like that, to the point to where she moved in with me. Eventually, my roommate met a girl, and he went and they moved out. So me and the girlfriend got a cheaper house to live in. Well, I lost my job. I got laid off. And so I was bitter, and all I wanted to do was play video games. So I got to the point to where I drew unemployment for 9 months, and it was during the time when there was an employment crisis type thing. So you could extend your unemployment for another 9 months with no harm. So basically, I was on unemployment for 18 months. Brought in my $350 a week and played video games from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. To the point to where I remember plenty of times where my girlfriend tried to initiate sex with me. To the point to where she crawled under the desk one time to give me a blowjob, and I was like, I'm in the middle of a raid. You gotta stop. I can't concentrate. That was a time in my life of about 3 to 4 years where that's all I did. She got to the point to where she had enough and she left. That's how I consider that an addiction, because it ruined my relationship. I guarantee you it probably hurt her psyche a little bit that she was treated that way, because she was not an ugly woman by any means. She was very attractive and all this kind of stuff. You know, it was caused harm, indirect harm to her because of the way that I treated her. So I consider that addiction. And now later in my life, I can see that. But when I was younger, that was just norm. I mean, I got up at 10 o'clock noon whenever I decided to wake up, and then I gamed until wee hours of the night playing WoW and doing all that kind of stuff. WoW was an addictive game for me. Now I can play it and I can barely stand it. It's kind of boring and all that kind of stuff. But that was just one point in my life to where a video game ruined a relationship, and video games have ruined more than one relationship in my life, you know? So. Well,
I don't know. I feel like I want to hug you now.
You know, life works the way it works. I am happy in my current life. Like I said, I got a girlfriend, got a kid. I'm pretty happy in my life. I have the gaming time I want, and I'm not missing out for anything in my life. You know, as a kid, and this is how I look at this. As a kid, I learned, stop being stupid, you know, stop being an idiot, you know, because the whole time that I didn't work, she was having to pick up all the slack because I was bringing home $350 a week, and that was basically going towards our rent payment, you know, and then one little bit of groceries I could afford. I was giving it all to that type of stuff and doing a whole lot of nothing with my life, besides keeping my WoW subscription going and the internet going. That was what my goal in life was to do, and that's what I did. And then when that day came, and I'm going to tell you what, that was the eye-opening. It was probably one of the worst things that I have ever had happen to me in my life, but finally unemployment had ran out, and I had been doing odd jobs to keep the money coming in because I was in IT, so I could go and work at this guy and he'd pay me $75 an hour to come in and do this, or 120. And I went to work for a guy for $120 an hour doing contract work. And then I got home from the end of my shift and I opened the door and the entire house was cleaned out. She had enough of my crap, and I do not blame any of this on her to some extent. Now, she took everything, which stuff that wasn't even hers. She took everything. I literally came home to a couch. A couch, that's it. My bed was gone. My TV was gone. My desk and computer was the only things left in there, but everything else in the house was gone. And so it was like I don't know, being hit by a Mack truck, and then she called me and was just like, I'd had enough and this and that. And she came over and we talked, but that was pretty much the end of the relationship. Nothing ever came from there. And no blame or fault of hers. I was probably 80% to 90% at fault in that relationship, but, I learned from that. Part of my brain goes, I didn't play games. I would honestly say I probably didn't play games for a solid 8 or 9 months after that. I couldn't look at a game. I couldn't play a game. I couldn't do anything. I immediately moved out of that house within the week. I moved back in with my mom, found a job that same month, and was just like, I can't do this. I got to change this. It was bad enough to where I almost joined the Army because I was like, I just got to change my life. I can't do this. So I got a job, luckily, like a couple of weeks before I was supposed to get on the bus and go to basic. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. I got a good job. So I got a job doing not IT work, but basically electronic repair work for a local company. And then, it kind of put a little bit of perspective, but life goes back to normal and I kind of came back into video game, but I feel I have a healthy amount of video game in my eyes, but according to this list, my game level of gameplay is not healthy is all that I'm going to say. I would consider that, my current girlfriend, she's happy with the way things work out because she has her hobbies and she gets to do her things. We spend some time together and do our things. Now that it's COVID, it's probably a little more worse because nobody can leave the house. So we're all cooped up in the house and, I work from home now. She works from home. We're all home all the time. And so gaming is kind of taking a little bit more precedence, but that's kind of story time for me. I will consider that addiction, but I would consider what I do now not to be an addiction. But according to this DSM-5 list, I am addicted, but I don't believe that.
Well, geez, now how do we follow up with that story?
Russ has one of his own.
I kind of do. I mean, you could, it definitely caused a pretty rough patch in a marriage. I mean, I don't know that it was necessarily all that either. So when I first started playing Star Wars Galaxies, I got really, really deep into that. And I mean, I would get off at, so I was in the military at the time. I would get off at, I would work swing shift. So I would get off at like 9, 10 o'clock on a Friday night, and I would game from Friday night till Monday evening. We had to go in at like, say, 6 on that Monday night. I would game that whole time, only taking 30 and 45-minute naps, 3 or 4 times a day. So I would be up. I would actually sleep more after work on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday than I did on the weekend when I was actually off. And it caused a problem. I mean, I separated from my then wife for 9 months, and when she came back, I kind of like Patrick, I took a second look and tried to right the ship. But I think a second time on it, though, I actually probably have two. Even a better time was I had gotten out of the Air Force, and it was really tough for me to find a job when I first got out of the Air Force. And there was 8-month period there where I played morning, noon, and night. We moved in with the parents, came back, got out of the military, came back, had to live with the parents. The now ex-wife, or at the time wife, she got a job and I didn't get a job. I was trying to go to school. Barely passing the classes I was going to school, and I probably played for 13 to 14 hours a day. I think Patrick's moment where he realized that was a day where I picked up my daughter from school. She was in second grade, and I realized that she was in second grade. So from the ages of my daughter being born to 2 years old, I was pretty thick into games, really hardcore, like over the top, close to where Patrick was at as well. And then that was when I kind of woke up and saw the light, I guess you could say. A lot of those things seem to happen so long ago, I kind of put them out of my brain, but between WoW and Star Wars Galaxies, definitely put many, many, many hours and almost ruined a marriage in the process. But yeah, man, that's about all I have. I mean, go ahead.
Russ, you left out the best part. You used to stand up on top of a washing machine,
yeah,
and an ironing board to play Star Wars Galaxies when you would go to a friend's house.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a key integral part that you left out of how bad you wanted to play.
I forget about all the details. So to add some more to that portion of it, so at the time, I couldn't even really afford internet at that time. I was in Germany. I was sending money back to my wife that we had been separated at the time, so I didn't really have a lot of money because I was sending as much as I could back to her. So back in the day, what it was, an ASDL, ADSL, we had there. And so I would go over to my buddy's house and, I would have my monitor on his washer, my keyboard and mouse on an ironing board, and play from those times from Friday, because I would pack my computer up, go over to his house, set it up on Friday night. We would play from Friday night to Monday night, and we did that. That was at Andy's house, and then when I went to this guy named, we called him Omelet. Olet was his name, but we called him Omelet. When I went over to Omelet's, at least there I had the kitchen table that I could sit on, but we would do the same thing. And that went on not just for 1 or 2 months, but that went 8 or 9 months straight. I did that every single weekend. And then even during the weekends, what sometimes I do is leave my computer there. And if we had a slow night where if we went, because I worked as an aircraft mechanic back then, it's like, so if we had good jets and we got everything fixed, and let's say we only worked 6 or 7 hours that night, I would go over to the buddy's house and I would game for 4 or 5 hours, crash on his couch for a couple hours, and then go home, take a shower, and go head back into work. So, yeah, it was pretty rough. I forget about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and all that's just saying is, as we were younger, we had those episodes, but I don't think that life has gotten back to that, especially not for me. But I also don't actually feel the same way about games as I did back then. I don't know how to explain the way that WoW and Star Wars Galaxies made me feel. Like, I just had to get on and check my harvesters in Star Wars Galaxies, or I don't know. Because when I think back of it, sometimes I think it's kind of boring now when I think about it. How many hours did we spend in your house or my house in Star Wars Galaxies going through tabs?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and
just
sorting stuff in bags and crafting and saying, oh, it's garbage. This one, let's re-engineer this one and do that one and that one. Just spending hours doing mundane, boring tasks that if I had to do it now, I'd be like, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, just the level of reorganizing a city, like picking up a whole city and moving a city, making sure that we have the right quality products or resources in certain bags, so we knew where to get them exactly. I mean, yeah, definitely. My goodness, some of these things that we're talking about is rekindling the insanity that I remember that we'd had. I mean, like, to the point of like spending 3, 4, 5, 6 hours just doing stuff in the city and not actually doing anything else outside of the game other than organizing. So yeah, I mean, definitely, I think at that period of time for both of us, it was definitely an addiction. I mean, we could have used the ICD-11 back in the day. I mean, we needed to be diagnosed because that was definitely a time where we found ourselves addicted. I think maturity plays a part in it too. I mean, as we become mature, we realize what's more important. Though we love our games and though we love them as an escape, there definitely is a time where maturity. So. What about the other two? Come on, I know they got to have a story too.
Yeah, come on, Nick Shane. You guys don't have anything like that. I mean, I have a couple of those types of things in my life, but I think life has a way of smacking you in the face that you either learn from or you just go down the rabbit hole and don't return. And my life smack in the face woke me up and changed what I did. To some extent, it didn't completely stop me from gaming. It did for a while when it happened, but I still play games to this day, and I think enough about video games that I'm in a podcast with it. So what about you, Nick, Shane, you guys?
You guys are losers because I've never been like that, ever. I've never done like favors for a guy, over by GameStop, but.
It's Game World over there where you live. It ain't GameStop.
But no, honestly, when I was single, I didn't even want a serious relationship till I was in my late 20s. Because I seen, how that crap screwed up my brother's life. I dated off and on different people and I was fine with that. So my game time was my game time. I never really affected, different family or kids or anything like that. Probably the most addicted time of my life, if you want to call it an addiction, was when I was single. I mean, that's all I wanted to do. I would go to work, I take care of my bills, I pay my rent, and all that stuff, but then I have my game time. I never let it, interfere with my job, unless I took a day off for the next console or a midnight release or something, but, anything like that. Now, once I had, my first kid with my ex-wife and everything, I've definitely had to trim back, my gaming time, but, it's never caused me to let my child sit in a she diaper, pardon my language, or anything like that. I'm not going to say that I would rather, do something else that typical other people would, than play a game, because that's just not me. I prefer my video games. Can I play golf? Yes. Do I want to play a video game? Yes. I'm going to play video games where I'm going to play golf. One, because it's cheaper. But
I would beg to differ on that, Shane.
Well, yeah. I mean, it just depends on the time of year.
I mean,
But
you already own a set of golf clubs, so it costs you like $28.50 to go play 9 holes.
Yeah, but the problem is I really like golf and I want to play more. It's just $28.50.
Right.
But I'm not going to say I haven't had moments where it's just been constant gaming. My old job before I ever got married and had kids, I worked night shifts. Sunday during the day would be the only daytime hours, and then Monday through Thursday we worked, night shift. So after work on like Friday, it was basically gaming till I went to work on Sunday. But if I had to go to a family thing with my, parents or brother or whatever, I'd go meet them and do that, whatever. But I never put myself in that position after I got married and had kids. My wife, she will complain if I'm, I wake up in the morning, everybody else is asleep. I'll go in here in the game room. I'll play a game. She'll wake up. What the hell are you doing? You need to go do this. Well, if I do this, you're going to wake up earlier. I didn't want to do that. Well, she don't care. So she would vary on her opinion of that, to how my opinion of that is.
I would say there's one key word that everybody should have picked up in there is that Shane has a game room.
And it's a print room too. I print in here.
It's a game room.
It is a game room. But the point is, I never let my gaming, I think, interfere to the point where it caused that much of an issue in any portion of my life. Now, when Seaman came out on the Sega Dreamcast, I had to take care of my Seaman. So at lunch breaks, I would run home and check on them. Everybody checked on their Seaman. Russ, Seaman, not Seaman. Just so you got that one straight.
Oh, I got it straight, but I still know why you played that game.
All right.
Because I could talk to him, and he was my friend. But, right. But that's just me. But I think addiction is really also an opinion. Some people feel, you have an addiction. Some people don't. It's like the sex addiction. The old joke for a sex addiction is it's not a sex addiction unless you get caught by your wife. Then it's a sex addiction.
So is that the same thing with video games? It's not a video game addiction unless you get caught by your wife?
Get caught by the wife, yeah. Yeah, and it kind of goes that way because if, everybody's asleep, I'm playing a game, I'm not bothering nobody, I don't see an issue. Wife wakes up, she sees an issue.
I guess it's just different for everybody, though, too. Because, in all honesty, in my relationship, my girlfriend has her own hobbies and interests. So, on nights that I'm going to play games, she's what I would consider a typical social woman. If I'm going to go and she's like, "Are you going to go play games?" She's like, "Are you going to go play games?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to go down in the basement and play some games." And she's like, "Okay, good, because I got my recording shows to watch, and she watches all what I would consider these social butterfly type shows. She watches, Kardashians and yacht shows and dating shows and all this type of stuff. And then, she has her crafting hobbies and she likes to do those and she doesn't want to be up my butt 24/7. I don't want to be up her butt 24/7. So it's like she has her hobbies. I have my hobbies and it seems to work really well. And I will say in the past in other relationships, it doesn't. I dated a girl. I was married for a while to someone who didn't have their own hobbies. So they wanted to be like up my butt. I don't want to curse here, but they wanted me to be around 24/7. It didn't work that way. I wanted to have me time. And also, I will admit that I had a job that I didn't necessarily love. I kind of hated my job, and I had to commute an hour one way, an hour back, and I was drained at the end of the day. So I would leave the house at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would get home at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and we eat dinner and be like, oh, I think I'm going to go try to get an hour of gaming in before bed or something, And so that marriage didn't last type stuff, because she wanted something that I wasn't able or willing to give her, which was time 24/7 when I wasn't trying to do something else, So, and I think it's all in how your relationship works, We used to make a joke when I was younger. We used to have to you had to get your wife faction up there. And we used to always make that joke. I need to get some wife faction tonight, guys. I'm not going to get on, to try to balance your life with your life with your gaming. So you would say, oh, I need to put in some faction time, which means, I'm building up faction so I can play some. There used to be a running joke between me and Russ. I'd be like, Russ, you going to game tonight? He's like, no, I need wife faction tonight,
Yeah, those are good times. But I mean, but still though, we traversed that portion of it. I mean, I don't think that those times that we struggled with gaming, would have made us who we are now and really enjoy the time that we do get to game and enjoy the time that we do get with our family. I think that's just all the maturation of life. But we definitely wanted to have those specific instances where this can be an issue. I mean, we talk about ourselves, but we also know the horror stories of life. I mean, the WoW widows, those people like that, the stories you hear on the back end of like people leaving their kid in a car seat sitting next to them while they play WoW for 9 and 10 and 11 hours a day, telling the group of people, oh, yeah, we're going to have to get off for a little bit. Child services says we need help, stuff like that. I mean, right. You laugh and you giggle.
It never gets that bad, yeah.
We've seen that happen, and so it is truly something that we have to be careful of. I mean, our children nowadays, I think, is the ones that we really need to monitor and watch. Games like Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, all those games, in order to allow them to, basically occupy their own time, which is fine. It's just, I think that's the scary part of me. I definitely do not envy all three of you gentlemen for the time that we live in and trying to raise a child that is, not a attention deficit disorder. Not that children are all like that nowadays. I'm just saying with the amount of things that can go on the internet and the accessibility to these things, it is definitely a challenge for this generation of parenting.
Right. So Nick, we've all kind of spoke. Have you had incidents like that in your life, would you say?
No, I haven't. Mine is pretty much kind of in line with Shane's. I was single for a long time, and that was really kind of a choice for me. And during that time, I would game and do whatever I want because I'm single. I mean, who cares, at that point. And and even Shane can attest to this. When I did get in relationships, I would disappear for years on end, and it would barely play any games and stuff like that. So I never let gaming come in the way of me and whatever I was doing, relationship wise or job wise. I always make sure that, for me, it was, as far as gaming goes, I got to make sure that I got everything else done before I did the gaming, right? The gaming was kind of like second to everything else. I make sure I got my bills paid, my job worked, relationship, whatever it is, make sure that that's in line, and then I'd play video games. Not to say that I wasn't addicted to video games or that I didn't want to play them, because I did, but it was, for me, it was always making sure that I got these things done with, and then, kind of playing video games was my reward, I guess, in the sense. my ex-wife was the same as you were, one of the ones that you were talking about, Patrick, where, you know, she didn't have any hobbies, and, you know, I would have to give her attention 24/7, and that really just, you know, that doesn't work out either. You know,
Right.
It's not even for you, is not necessarily because you're a gamer, just in general, right? Because there's no amount of attention that you can give that person that's going to satisfy them, regardless. And it's like, go find your own things to do. Like, you know, so anyway, again, ex-wife,
Right.
you know, the current girl I'm dating now, you know, she's great. She's fantastic.
Nice.
You know, she has her own, hobbies and her own interests, and, you know, kind of the same sense in with you, Patrick, where, you know, if I'm going to play a game, she's like, great, I'm going to go watch the shows I like to watch, you know, so she'll go watch her shows, or, you know, sometimes she'll just hang out, and she'll just sit in there, and, you know, I have a game room, you know, and she'll sit in there and just chat with her friends on her phone, or look up stuff on her phone while I'm sitting there playing a game, because she just likes to hang out in the same room while I'm playing a game, and she doesn't mind it. Like, she doesn't bother me or, like, try to get my attention all the time. She's just sitting back there, like, half the time I know she's there, right? But for her, it's not necessarily like, hey, I want attention. It's more like, I just want to hang out with you. So if you're going to play a video game, great. I'm just going to sit back here and play on my phone while you're doing that, you know?
Right.
Well, what
it's
makes
like no
it
different
nice-
than watching a show together, you know, at that point.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because you're not talking to each other anyway. But what makes it nice, though, is, and it's the same for you, Pat, both your girlfriends, they're good with your friends. So if, you know, they understand the people that you hang out with, they understand your little group thing, so it's easier for them to comprehend. Nick's ex, on the other hand, did not like any of that, did not want any of that, and didn't want any of that for him. So what he has now is much better for him.
I will say this. My past relationships basically taught me two things in life. Was the first relationship that I ruined with video games was that I had a problem and I was playing too much games and I was giving games more attention than anything else in my life, to the point to where, like I said, I was on unemployment for 18 months, 2 9-month stints back to back, and I didn't look for a job because I was getting unemployment. You know, I would halfway look for a job. I'd go online and put in an application and be like, I did my 3 looks for the week, move on. You know, and I would do that. I didn't earnestly try to find a job because I was like, you know, I don't want to play video games. I'm mad at the world type stuff, you know. And then, you know, my second relationship taught me that there's a balance. And that balance was that I have to have me time, but, you know, and in my me time, I want to play games, and I don't play games 24/7. I made sure that mine was taken care of. I mean, we did stuff on the weekends together. We did stuff in the evenings together. It was just, you know, work was a drain. Life was a little bit of a drain, and I wanted an escape at times. But if I wasn't around, if I wasn't up her butt for the time I got off work to the time I went to bed, and on the weekends, we had a problem. If I would go play games for 2 hours on the weekend, you would think the world was ending, because she's like, I want to do something. And I'm like, go do something. Have your own life. I can't be your sole thing in life. And I never got that, and it just didn't work out. I mean, nothing bad about that. Nothing, you know, we just didn't work out because she wanted more from me than what I could give or what I was willing to give, you know. So it taught me that there's balance. And now in my new relationship, I have balance, you know. I'm pretty sure she would like it to be a little bit more balanced towards her favor, that she would like to do a little bit more thing. But I never hear about it. It's not to the point where she's like, you got to do this or I'm going to leave you. We have honest conversation. She's like, I would like to do this and I want you to join me. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I am what's the term that I'm looking for? I'm, oh my God, why is the term escaping me?
You're not an introvert.
Yeah, I'm not.
But you're not introverted, but you are introverted.
I will put it this way. I'm not a social person.
Hurt.
I'm not a social person to the point where I like being around large crowds. I like being around my small group of friends and stuff like that and doing things like that. That doesn't bother me. But to me, people are draining. And I have a job to where I have to deal with problems and issues all day, and that's draining to me. So at the end of the day, I need to recharge, and playing games is how being by myself, I should say, is how I recharge. And gaming happens to be a solo activity. Sometimes I play with my friends at co-op games, but for the most part, it's single player and it's a recharge thing. And my girlfriend understands that. She is a very extroverted person. She has to be around people. So COVID, you can imagine, is killing her. So, I try to give him a little bit extra attention where I can. But she's not to the point to where she's like, has to be on me. And that's what my past relationships and gaming experience taught me, is that there's balance in everything. And you have to just learn from it. You learn from it or it takes you down. That's pure and simple part of life to me, in my opinion. And I don't think that I have a gaming addiction, but according to this study, I have some bit of a gaming problem. Maybe they wouldn't call it addiction, because I think the World Health Organization says there's only about 9% of the population at max that has a gaming addiction. So I don't know. I probably would consider it to be a problem, but I don't think it's a problem because I maintain my life. My work doesn't suffer from it. My personal life doesn't suffer from it. My kid doesn't suffer from it. My bills get paid. Everything gets taken care of. I hang out with friends. And just like Shane said earlier, I'm not at the bar getting drunk. I'm not out sleeping around. I'm doing what makes me happy, which is playing games.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And the same thing with, my girlfriend now. I'm sure she would love me to probably hang out more with her and do more things with her. But, in the same sense, again, like you said, Patrick, like with your girlfriend, she doesn't complain about those things, right? And if she really wants me to do something with me, she'll say, hey, I want to do this or I want to do that, and I really like for you to come with me or be involved in that or whatever. And I'm like, okay, sure. That's fine. Not a problem. And if she wants to go do something on her own, she'll be like, you know what, I'm going to go hang out with my friends. Okay, have a good time, and she'll go and do that, and so it's really that, you can't have that, in this case, in our exes, where you can't have that person that just wants you to be around them 24/7 and do things with them 24/7. I don't even know how a person could want that. I mean, I understand wanting to be together and be with someone, but, no matter who I'm with or who I love, I don't want to be around them all the time. There's got to be times where I just want to be by myself, and I would assume the same they would want the same, right? It's like there's got to be times where you want to be by yourself. You don't want to be with me 24/7. I don't want to be with you 24/7. Why would you want to be with me 24/7? So
what do you mean you don't want to be with 24/7? You don't love me? Huh? You don't love me? You don't want to be 24/7?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no,
all day, every day, I
don't want to be with you 24/7. I love you, but geez, come on, there's some space.
I think this has turned into dating in the age of video games.
It is.
But I mean, I guess
it's part of it, though. It really
is. I would honestly say it, though, because some people would say that you're addicted to something. Like Nick, your ex would probably say you're addicted. My ex would definitely say I was addicted to video games, but I play more video games now than when I was married to my ex. So that has to say something.
Same. I play more video games now than when I was with my ex. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's because your ex never let you do anything you wanted.
Exactly. It's always what she wanted to do. I mean, no matter what it was always what she wanted to do, and it was never enough. And that was, we're going off into a different conversation here, but that was the problem with that. Was no matter what it was, I could never do enough, and no matter what I wanted to do, it was not enough for her. So, luckily I found someone, and and like I said, my ex, right? And my ex, I was married to her, and we're no longer married, and that, I guess, in this sense, again, kind of going off in a different conversation, but that's why I don't want to get married again. Right? Because I don't want to be bound to somebody. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Go on your way. Because I'm happy and content with my life that I don't want to sound like a mean person. I don't necessarily need you, right? In that sense. Like,
right. You want that person. You don't need them. You want to be around that person.
Right. I want that person and I want that person to be in my life, but I don't need them. It's not a necessity. I can go on without, right?
Well, in case my wife's listening, I need you, baby.
She didn't get that far.
Right. Yeah, she doesn't listen, Shane. She doesn't listen,
No.
Shane.
And we interrupt this conversation with Love with Gamers. We just want to let you know that our sponsor tonight is a lot of bullshit. Thank you for joining.
A lot of bullshit. That's a lot of vagina's cousin.
It's Delilah.
Right, Delilah. Russ is the male. What's the male version of Delilah?
Daryl.
My name's Daryl. No, that doesn't sound sexual. It needs to be Samuel. It's just this
Darrell.
is late night with Daryl. Darrell. There you go. It's Darrell.
Daryl.
Yeah.
Spelled
Yeah.
like the cigarette.
But I mean, I guess this is the reason that it's kind of going off on a tangent, though, is I mean, video game, in my honest opinion, video game addiction is very rare. And I honestly feel this way. I mean, we all know and have seen people that have been addicted to video games, but you take, and I will admit in part of my life, I probably would consider what I had was an addiction to video games because I just didn't do anything but play them from day in and day night, and it took life to smack me in the face to kind of wake me up. If life never smacked me in the face, maybe I wouldn't have woke up. If I was still with the girl that I was with when I was younger, which was basically my high school sweetheart when all this happened, I don't know if I would have ever woke up, to be honest with you. I would have maybe got bored with games because there was a point where we were reaching boredom with games because they were just getting boredom. But I don't know if I would have woke up, to be honest with you. I don't know. There's a whole lot of what ifs and, in life that I can't answer. I just know the things that happened to me made me the person that I am today and the way that I think and look at things today. I am not going to put video games above my child. I'm not going to put video games above my girlfriend. I'm not going to put them above my job. But everything has balance and equilibrium in life, and I feel that I do it. And sometimes I give video games more attention than I give the girlfriend. Sometimes I give the girlfriend more attention than I do video games. Sometimes I give my kid more attention. It's just what I feel needs to happen, or if I feel something slipping, I mean, it's kind of an odd age we live in this day and age. As Russ was saying, my daughter plays video games. She plays Roblox and all these other weird things, but it's a weird age. I will not let my child go out and play outside unsupervised like I did when I was a kid. There's no way I would ever let that happen. I don't trust the world, and it's because of the way that we grew up. I mean, so Shane, Nick, Russ, when you guys were kids, was this the same for you? When I was a kid, I left when breakfast was over, and if I got hungry, I'd come home for lunch, but if not, I knew just to come home when the street lights came on.
My kids, when I was growing up, my parents didn't know who I was till I hit 18.
Right? I was in and out.
But that's the thing. I don't think the world's worse. It's just more publicized. I mean, I really don't think there's more kidnappings or more murders. It's more publicized because everything in the world is at your fingertips. Everything in the world is in your ears. I mean, every day, what do you hear about? You hear about COVID, the elections, movie stars, these TikTokers, that are making videos and crap.
Okay.
Everything is put at you now.
Well, I mean, either way, we're kind of pulling away from the
right.
the actual point is that.
Well, no, I know where you're going too.
I have a point to go with. But Shane, do you let your kids go out and be gone the amount of time that you were gone without knowing where they were, doing all this stuff? Do you do that?
No.
Do you let your kids do that? Okay.
No, because I thought about it when they were born. Like, am I going to be? Not that my parents were bad or anything, but I thought, you know what? It never really made sense that I could walk out that door. My parents never asked me where I was going, and when I came back, where you been?
I mean, my parents maybe did a little bit of that, but they still let me run around town. And Nick, how about you? When you were younger, did you have that kind of freedom, and did you do that kind of stuff?
I did, yeah. I mean, my parents would ask me where I've been and where I'm going,
right.
But
pretty much
they
would
do it. Basically, yeah. I mean, we kind of lived outside. We lived out in the country, so I would just leave and go outside and ride my bike up and down the road and around the corner and just, I mean, half the time parents probably didn't even know where I was, and I would just come in later on and be like, hey. So and nowadays,
on the other foot. Yeah. You won't let your kids, right?
No, I don't. I mean, it's most of if they're in the backyard, because I have a gated backyard. Yep. So if they're going in the backyard, yes, I will let them go out there by themselves. But it's no going in the front yard. And if they're in the front yard, it's me out there with them.
Exactly. I have the same rule. And Russ, when Bella was young, You know, how about when you were young? Did your parents let you do that?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, hell, I mean, I think I'm the second oldest in the group, so yeah, I mean, you know, for the ages of, I mean, as far as I can remember, I mean, from third to, you know, second to third grade to, you know, I mean, even in high school, I mean,
Right.
I would say the only thing I would preface is that you kind of said a couple of times, like, parents didn't even know where I was going to go. My parents, I'm sure everybody here, but we at least told them, hey, we're going to go over to Johnny's house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even though we're going to Johnny's house, it doesn't include the fact that we went to the middle school and turned over trash cans and then went to what, you know, we didn't include all that. We just, and we ended up at Johnny's at some point, but in the end, you know, I mean, definitely that's just,
So,
I just wanted to preface that.
and with your kid, did you let your kid roam around like you did?
No, but that's an unfair assessment because Isabella never was one of those people anyway. But
But
at
I mean,
the same
you
time,
didn't give them the opportunity though, neither.
yeah, and I don't know that I would or wouldn't have. Really, Rhonda was the stickler on that one anyway. I mean, Rhonda would have wrapped her with, you know,
Bubble wrap and
bubble wrap and
Bubble wrapping babies.
But,
Yeah.
you know, all this to say, and the reason that I bring this up and the reason I talk about this is because my kid does play a decent amount of video games because what else are they going to do? You know, I can't go outside with them all the time because I have other things. I have to work during the day, or at nighttime I'm like cooking dinner, or we're cleaning up, or we're doing something, you know, to the point where nobody's going to be able to go out and watch them, you know. And now my kid's about to turn 10, and so she's at the point to where her personality is kind of set and basically formed because of her past experiences type stuff. She plays a lot of video games because she doesn't have a lot to do. Now she likes to read, so she'll read in her room. She will play video games. She will snap. She's got like a little family Snapchat where she's only got like my cousin and my girlfriend and her mom and all these people on there that are only family, so she can only do that kind of stuff and it's locked down. But she does that kind of stuff. She's a technologically centered kid. She is, you know, as most kids are this day, they're tech savvy and she's into all that. So the only thing that she's doing that's most of the time not electronic is she's reading. You know, school's on the laptop, you know, especially during COVID. She's going from school from home. So she's on the laptop all day long.
Yeah.
She gets off, she grabs her phone because there's no phone allowed during school time and there's no phone allowed at bedtime. So the phone goes out of the bedroom at nighttime. Now, when I say phone, she's now almost 10. It's not an active phone plan. It's just she uses it as like a mobile tablet device. It's only good on Wi-Fi type thing. So she's on that stuff all the time. So if you were to look at a video game addiction, she's probably got it. If you call that a video game addiction, because she thinks about video games a lot. She plays video games a lot. She would be extremely upset if I took those video games away because she has nothing else to do besides read a book, and she enjoys to read a book. But she would be like, that doesn't want to be her only option. What else are kids to do this day that's not an electronic thing, as such as watching TV, you know, or doing some of this stuff, you know? And I thought about that long because I have a bunch of friends who are like, oh, my kid only gets this much screen time a day. And I'm like, so what does your kid do? You let them just go out and run the street, you know?
I don't think that's very accurate, but I think it's because of who she has in her life, who raises her, that dictates that. I mean, my brother, my oldest brother is and has always been the athletic brother, the go out and go doing things brother. So that's how he's raising his kid. I mean, I don't know where the hell he gets the time, but, you know, his kid does like cheer and gymnastics and all this.
But what are they doing right now during COVID?
Cheer and gymnastics and all this because they don't.
So there's some of the people that are, you know, that are helping spread it.
Yeah. They don't.
I mean, and I will admit,
they do their masks and that's about it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you know, I'm the polar opposite of him. I'm the technical, I'm the entertainment, you know, brother. I like movies and I like my games and, you know, and that's, you know, and that's just how my kids have learned what they do from me. Now they're not all from me. Thank God. They're, you know, they pick up some of the good stuff from their mother, but, you know, Jasmine doesn't play games like I do. but there are some games she loves until Last of Us 2 ruined it for her.
My kid does stuff
but what
like
I'm saying is, you can't really say what else is there for them to do. If the world didn't suck butt right now with the COVID, I mean, there's things that they can do.
Well, let's put this into perspective. My kid does dance, and when I say dance, she has 6 different dance classes in a week, and they're usually over a day or 2. But outside of that, she doesn't do anything. And what do you do? Let's take the equation of that. The reason that we did what we did is because we were poor when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. My parents couldn't afford to put me in baseball. They couldn't afford to put me in this and that. So what do your kids do? If you're not going to go take them baseball and you're not going to let them run around town unsupervised, because that to me is a problem. If you're going to let your child just run the streets unsupervised, that's how they get into trouble, because that's how I got into trouble. But I just don't trust the world today more than anything. You know, if all I had to worry about was my kid doing something stupid, I could probably handle that because I did stupid stuff and I'm still alive, you know. But I don't trust the world with my kid. And it's not their responsibility to raise a kid too. But I'm just saying, like, and so Nick, you know, and Russ, I mean, like, I just kind of want your opinion on this because, Russ, you have an older kid. You know, your daughter is grown. She's in college. She's about to graduate college, you know. The world's different, you know, from when we were younger. I would never let my kid do half of what I did or even a quarter. And so now she's a product of how we live. She goes out when we go out and hangs out with my friends and has friends. They have kids and she does that stuff. But for the most part, she's an electronic kid. Russ?
Well, I mean, I didn't know if that was the question. I mean, like Bella growing up, I mean, like I think I have hard time commenting on this portion of it because the technology boom happened like it was like 3 years after Isabella became a teenager, or like right as she became a teenager it happened. So like Snapchat didn't come out until she was, 17, I think, 16 or 17. And at that point she had already shown me that I can trust her with a lot of those things. And so, we allowed her to have some of those things, and they were still in its infantile or youth stage within the software or the program or whatever that, it's kind of like Facebook. When Facebook first started, everybody's like, oh, friends. And then like 3 years later, Facebook is like, I hate the world, type of thing. So yeah, I'm on the back end of that. When it comes to like letting her go and do stuff, I mean, she was driving right at age 16. When it came to stuff like that, it was like, I mean, cell phones. So, like we were always connected. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But I mean, I definitely, I think in the end here, we're at one point in time, we need to get back to addiction. But, I mean, I believe in, I don't think that I have a relevant story within this time frame, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, one thing Russ said, though, and it makes sense, is because Bella's, 22, 23? Somewhere in there?
22. Yeah, 22.
Right, yeah. So, and she's in that age range where she missed a lot of that younger attention-grabbing stages of, the electronic age. Lori, she's 18. She doesn't really care about Facebook. She doesn't really care about games. The only thing she picked up from me is her love for anime. So she didn't pick up a lot of those technical stuff. She's not addicted to her phone and whatnot like the other kids are. They're younger than her by a lot. So that makes a big difference. What the other kids are doing as well.
Right. And that this does lead into video game addiction. That's why I brought it up, is because my kid has no option. If I don't let her go out and run the streets during the day and in the evenings, what is she to do? She has TV, video games, and books, all indoor hobbies. I mean, she does some crafting stuff, but not as much. She's, in this day and age, you think of like a tactile thing that we did when we were kids. If I was stuck in the house, I was making a giant Lego tower or something stupid, and my kid's like, I got Minecraft for that, or I got Roblox for that, Nick, you got young kids. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, my kids have, for me, I'm basically I'm an only I'm an only parent, right? I'm an only father. I have 2 kids and they are with me 90% of the time. They go to their mom's every other weekend if she has them. And for one day pretty much. And so that's pretty much the gist of where they go there. So for me, they're with me, a large majority of the time, and I'm very of a technology person. So that's pretty much what they do. They play video games, watch, Netflix, Disney Plus, things like that, and are pretty much stuck inside. And it kind of sucks for them, and I understand that because that's just kind of how I am, right? I'd rather do things inside and stuff like that. Even though when I was a kid, I was out most of the time, besides playing video games, I was out riding my bike and things like that. But like we kind of talked about, I don't let them out unsupervised. And we live in a neighborhood where, unfortunately, the street that's up from me that is somewhat busy compared to the fact that it's in a small neighborhood. And people just drive like 90 miles an hour up and down the thing like it's a highway, So, I try to keep them out, let them go out and ride their bikes and do various things like that. But I'm always afraid of the vehicles because they just don't pay attention. As far as other things, other activities, my son, he played soccer for quite a few years and liked that, but then he didn't like that anymore. And so he's kind of here and there as far as what type of sports he wants to play. And I don't mind if he wants to play sports. I was never into sports when I was a kid, but, if he wants to play them, that's fine. And it just depends on what he wants to play. My daughter, she's not really, she's a lot more technical and, always on her tablet or playing the Xbox or something like that. But she hasn't kind of found her stride, but, she does like a lot of drawing and stuff like that. So that's more contextualized to the inside, but I think she would like to do dance. So that's something I definitely want to get her into. So, for me, it's like, it's trying to balance. It's kind of hard, especially for myself. It's trying to balance the, my stuff with their stuff. And what they want to do. Kind of like Shane said, he has his brother that they're all, and my brother is kind of the same way with his kids, where his kids went in extracurricular activities, football and things like that, and that's all they did, right? But they're not into gaming and stuff like that. So I think gaming kind of puts it, if I were to speak to it realistically, gaming kind of puts a detriment on that type of stuff. Right? Because gaming is an indoor activity. I guess if you don't have anything else to do besides watch TV, then you're going to be more involved in those extracurricular activities because you have nothing else. But if you have gaming or some sort of addiction or hobby, that's going to, you're going to have to find time between all these various things. And especially having multiple kids, it's a little bit more, that makes it more difficult. To find things that both kids are in and have time to take them to these various things, especially when you're doing it by yourself. I know Shane went through that as well with Lori, who he talked about before, his oldest daughter. So, I'm sure in his experience, that was maybe, and Shane, if you wanted to speak to that, how maybe difficult it was to kind of balance that life, between what they wanted to do, what you wanted to do, and finding those times for those extracurricular activities that you wanted to get them involved with.
Well, it's, my problem is my wife and I, we have different hours. I work days, she works nights. It's the only way that we can really take care of the kids, getting them back and forth to school in the mornings, take care of them in the evenings. So extracurricular stuff has been really hard for us with the kids. Lori tried Girl Scouts for a while, but with our hours, it was too much of a pain. And then, because you got to get one kid here, you got to get, take care of the other ones that were much smaller, blah, blah, blah. And then, the other kids that have school stuff that they do, and it's even just an extra hour a day is just really hard on us because you have to pick them up by such and such time. But, I'm not working from home. I'm working from the office. So I have to go to the office and drive all the way home, but I can't get home in time to pick up kids and yada, yada, yada. So extracurricular stuff for us has been a pain in the butt. But I wished I could get them in more stuff outside of electronics, because I don't want them to have park my butt syndrome. I park my butt in front of the TV and I watch my TV all day and all night and play games all day and all night. I do want them to be a little more active. And like you said, your little girl, she does dance, and I wish I had the ability to do that right now. Our plan is after this school year, the kids will all have set times that will make it easier for my wife to go to work days, and then we can try to get those things done in the evening. Because I honestly would like to be able to exercise after work for a little bit, a couple times a week, because my health's not the greatest. And since I quit smoking, there's my addiction. I put on a few pounds. And by a few, I mean 2 small children and a goat.
Well, I like I said, when my kid was younger, she didn't want to do anything but have what you said, park your butt syndrome. So we tried to force her to do activities. And kids will always pick, if you give them the option of something new versus video games, they're going to pick video games. The majority of kids will. My kid didn't want to do anything. I put her in gymnastics. She hated it. And then, because she got a little bit of a fear of heights. She's a little short thing, so she's afraid of super height. So, and then, so we put her in dance, and she actually kind of liked it, but was a little scared of it and timid. So she wanted to quit so many times, and I was like, you got to do something. I can't let you sit at home and just play video games all day long. So lucky for us, her mom has worked from home most of her life, or she didn't work. She didn't work at first, and then as she got older, she worked from home. So she takes her to dance on Mondays, and she's also in Girl Scouts, and so that's her breakup. But outside of those things, she plops her butt down in her room and plays on her computer, or plays on her phone, plays on her Xbox, plays on her Switch, that kind of stuff. So I mean, it is just what it is. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to bring this back to, in my opinion, not in my opinion, but if you look at the things that say, hey, if you have video game addiction, these are the symptoms. I would say that the majority of kids who aren't physically active are probably fall into this category. If I took my kid's video game away from them and they couldn't play, she would have a meltdown. I'd whoop her little butt, but she would have a meltdown. It's all about how you look at it. I think there is such thing as video game addiction, but I think the things that they put in here are not really an addiction, are addiction signs. Addiction signs are like, we all seen the kid where his mom took away his Warcraft account, whatever. He went in his room and flipped his lid and threw his brother across the room and stuff like that. That's an addiction problem, or a parenting problem, however you want to look at it.
Or both.
Or both, yeah. Because I mean, while I will say that my kid would be upset, she might mouth off a little bit, but that's the end of it. She's not going to go flip her lid and like throw a huge tantrum and scream and cry and all this stuff. But because I've done it before. She has lost all privileges to all electronics before, to where she had only thing in her room was books in her bed. And it's like, I guess you're going to read or you're going to sleep, So, it's one of those things where I think that if you look at this, kids have an addiction to all kids have an addiction to video games if they play games, if you look at this. Because I would say, my kid looks and thinks about video games a lot of the time. She feels bad when she can't play video games. She's upset because she's like, why can't I play? I want to play, or she spends more time playing video games all the time. She probably, if I didn't force her to, she wouldn't play less or she wouldn't quit. Not wanting to do other things. She would rather play video games. I don't think she has problems at work or school because of gaming, and maybe not even, I wouldn't even say home, because all I have to do is tell her to stop and she'll stop. But I've had to make remedies in life, because one of the things she would do was, like I said, she's got this phone and tablet. I would tell her it's bedtime. And we have this rule in my house where when I say bedtime, you set a 30-minute timer on your TV and you can watch a little TV and then go to bed. That's the way it works. But she used to keep her phone in her room. Well, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning a few times, and guess what she was doing in her room? Playing on her phone at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, no. So the phone is not allowed in the room at night. There's no electronic devices allowed, because she just won't go to sleep. And then, when I asked her about how much she played, she's not always truthful. She's like, I just played a little bit, and I get a report from Microsoft because I have parenting control set up on our Xbox that says, hey, Eleanor played this game for 3 hours and this game for 2 hours. So, I don't monitor her screen time like that. I use it mostly just to see what her habits are and what she's doing and what she's looking at. And then, stuff like that. So I would say if you look at these, this thing says that I'm addicted to games. And, with Russ not being truthful about this, it says that Russ is not addicted, but the rest of us are.
I'm being as truthful as need to be for the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So he's trying to.
It's the same as saying like you're addicted to TV, right?
Right.
It's like saying, well, do you come home and sit down and watch television? Well, then you're addicted. And it's like, well, there's a very thin line between, I think even for games and movies and TV and really anything that you do in life, it's like, where is the line between hobby and addiction, right? I think personally it comes down to, for me personally, it comes down to if you take this thing, whatever it is, being gaming, TV, movies, whatever, and you forego all your obligations, right? Not necessarily like if you don't have obligations, and let's say you play a game or watch TV or watch a movie, besides, I don't know, go to the family function, that's not necessarily an obligation. That's like, your family would love you to be there, but you don't have to be there, right? Or, whatever it is. But if you have an obligation, like you need to be at your job, or you need to pay your bills, you need to do these things that are necessities in life. If you forego those things for this one thing, I would consider at that point in your life to be an addiction, right? Where that takes over your life, right? And it's the same with alcohol, smoking. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be anything. It's where that one particular thing takes over every instance of your life, where you're constantly doing it, constantly thinking about it, and that's the only thing where other things in your life are going by the wayside for that one thing. And that's what I would consider you having addiction. Now, if you can do that thing that you like, but you can also juggle real life, right? Job, bills, obligations, various things like that, and still do this thing, then I wouldn't consider that being a addiction, because you have a handle on that, right? It's not overtaking those things, right? If you need to go to your job, you're doing that. If you need to pay that bill, besides buying that $60 video game, you're paying that bill. You're saying, okay, if I have to choose between the two, I'm going to pay this bill because it needs to be paid because I need electricity to stay on, right? And maybe next time I'll have some free money to get the game, right? Or something like that. Or to watch the movie or whatever. So to me, that's what addiction is. Addiction is where you don't care about this, that, or the other, or those priorities. And you're just saying, no, this is more priority than taking a shower or, whatever it is. It's like those people in Korea, at the gaming cafes.
Right.
Yeah.
The story about the kid who died because he had like a
right. Well, there's
4-day game.
Stories of that.
Yeah.
Well, if you're willing to defecate yourself or defile yourself,
so Nick is basically
for
said
anything,
that addiction has to be harmful. That's basically, so for it to be addiction, it has to be harmful. I mean,
to you or others.
Well, yeah, and we're not necessarily mean to health or anything, but like that, but harmful to your life and or a detriment to your life. And a detriment could be, you're not paying your bills, you're not going to work, you're not taking care of priorities. But I mean, in all honesty, I think addiction has varying degrees and levels, because if you take something that everybody talks about as addiction, and a few of us have had experience with, smoking. Smoking, if you're smoking, it doesn't matter if you're smoking, whatever. If you're a smoker, you're addicted. That's just plain and simple about it. That's what they say. There is no harmful to yourself. I mean, you're harming yourself in a sense that you're putting chemicals into your body and stuff like that, but, there are people who live in their 80s and 90s who smoke every day, you know. So I mean, it's a risk. You're basically taking a risk when you're smoking, but it's considered an addiction too. So how do you segregate that, or varying degree of that? Because Shane, you were a smoker. Russ, you were a smoker. Nick, were you a smoker? I think you were, right? Or are?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, would you
cigarettes?
But I mean, would you consider what you were doing with smoking an addiction?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt.
Nick?
Yeah, I would, but
you didn't put
I would
anything
also
at a detriment.
True, but I would classify that as an addiction to the chemical, right? I mean, the smoking and alcohol have addictive properties, right? There are addictive, especially smoking, for example, has nicotine, which is an addictive property, which makes you addicted to the product, right? If smoking in general didn't have, and I don't know because we've never been through this instance, but if smoking didn't have that addictive property, would smoking be what it is today? Would people still smoke? Would those who smoked continue to smoke, right? Because those become where your body desires that particular thing, right? And in gaming, I don't see gaming as thing like having an addictive property in that same sense, where your body is like, I need it. But, whereas smoking is like, your body is telling you, I need this. Or in alcohol, even alcohol abuse and alcoholism, your body, if it doesn't get it, it goes through withdrawals, right? Now, in your mind, in your head, for gaming or any other sense of that type of entertainment, you could have a psychological withdrawal, I should say, I guess, in your head where you think you need it, but really your body's not. I don't think your body's going through that emotion where it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't get it, I'm gonna freak out, right? Unlike cigarettes and alcohol.
Do you know why they say video games are addictive, though? Because basically they're saying the reason the video games are addictive is because gaming in itself releases dopamine from the brain. So, and your body gets used to that, and it wants that, and it kind of craves that because, your gaming creates a type of enjoyment, and that enjoyment releases dopamine.
So, right. I mean, I could see that. I mean, any type of enjoyment's going to do that, right?
Yeah, food will give that to you.
Right. True.
So,
that's a natural reaction, right? I guess that's more of a natural thing, right? It's a natural reaction to your body's naturally releasing this substance into your body to say, okay, we want more of that. Whereas I feel like alcohol and cigarettes and other drugs, you're putting something into your body that's then telling your body, okay, we need more of that, right? Where in this case, you're not really putting it into you in a sense. You're just experiencing something where your body's like, I like this. I guess it's the same concept, but still, I mean, I think alcohol and cigarettes are a little bit more addictive than gaming, cause I love video games and I can play video games all the time, but I can easily, there's been stints, and Shane could probably, back this up. There's been stints where there's been months where I've never played a game. Period.
Yeah, with your last marriage.
Right.
But yeah. It's not like, if it was cigarettes are a lot harder, right? I mean, like stopping smoking is not an easy thing.
Because cigarettes in some ways is like video gaming. You have the, just that habit
Casual
of
gamer.
just going to do something. Like, when I first quit, the hardest thing for me wasn't craving. It was as soon as I got out of work and I got in my truck, first thing I would do is I'd reach over for something that I would do for years. I mean, I smoked I smoked for almost 30 years. And that's not good considering I'm only 46. But the cigarettes though, they have that added chemical in there that makes it addictive. So it's the same but different.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, I was gonna make a joke because Nick was saying about you don't put anything in you, but then I was gonna make a joke about sex addicts, but you get something put in you, I was like, well, you don't get anything, you're not introducing anything to your body, and Nick said, well, you put something in you, and I'm like, oh, dang it, there goes my sex joke. Because there's people who are addicted to sex, and, it's the same thing, it's a dopamine, type reaction in the brain, and so the way that I honestly see this, and I, agree, disagree, whatever it is on how you do it. I think that there's varying types of addiction. I would honestly say that I don't necessarily agree that it's an addiction unless you're far off on the scale, which I think is less than 2% of all people that play games is probably even what I would consider addiction. But if they want to do like an addiction thing, I think it needs to be a scale. Because you can be, because by all means, what their scale says is their scale says that I have a problem. And maybe I do. And my problem is that I just want to play video games and leave me alone. I'm not harming anybody. I'm living my life. I'm making time to do the things that I need to in life, and I'm taking care of my responsibilities in life, and I'm not causing harm to anybody or anything. I'm giving those people and things that need attention, and then I'm also feeding my habit of playing a game. So, and it's the same thing I would say with smoking. Smoking is a personal choice that person decides to make. They know that there's risks from smoking, and the risks are that they could damage their lungs or cause some type of cancer or whatever. With video games, the risk is that, you're going to be happy and you may you may ruin a relationship or something because you didn't put in the proper time. You didn't know how to properly manage. To that level, I would say that's a high level addiction. And I would say that I was addicted in my 20s, that I ruined relationships and put video games above all else. But I consider I play a lot now. I mean, I would say that I probably put in, on average, I would play an hour or two a night, I think, on average, maybe sometimes longer. Just depends on the night. Like today, I won't get any video game time in because as soon as we're done with the podcast, I'm going to go spend time with a girlfriend and watch a little TV and, get a little wife faction, so I don't get wife aggro later, So, I will do that. And then tomorrow night when I get off work, I will go hang out with a girlfriend. We'll make dinner and I'll talk to the kiddo and, we'll do a little bit of that. And then probably around 6:30 or 7, I'll come down here and play till 9 and then go upstairs and hang out for an hour before bed. And that's kind of my routine. I do that. I play for, 2 hours. If it's a night that, the girlfriend's like, hey, I got a bunch of projects or she's got to work function, I'll play from 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. If I can get away with that. But if I've got other responsibilities, I will do that. But I will say on average that I probably spend 2 hours a night playing games. That's not counting the weekend.
They try to classify as an on or off type thing, right? And I agree with you. There's various degrees, right? It's not just a yes or no type of thing, right? It's not just an on or off. You're either addicted or you're not. That's it. Right. Which is not. There's various degrees. I mean, if you can play video games or watch movies or do whatever, right? That they would consider addictive, but still be able to maintain your social and productive life, but still do these things. I mean, in their instance of addiction, you could say anything's addictive, right? And everything's addictive, and everyone's addicted.
Oh yeah, I would agree there. But I would say that they just need to stop that. It'd either be like, there's an addiction, which is an actual issue, and not, because I guess if you go by their scale, I'm a high-functioning addict, right? I make sure everything's taken care of, but I still game a lot. And like I said, I say 2 hours a night, but that's not on the weekends. If we have nothing going on the weekends, I'll play a lot on the weekends.
I just do what I'm allowed to do.
Well, see, you've got you got a control for you.
Yeah, I mean,
your wife says
home,
no.
I get home, I do dinners, I double check homeworks and all that garbage. And then if I got time, I will hop on here with, you guys or, by myself. Of course we do our Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday recordings, blah, blah, blah. So if I'm lucky, I can get an hour a night, on the work nights. Now the weekends, the wife don't typically care. When me, you, and Russ and Nick jump on, she usually has fun just listening to us talk crap with each other.
And making fun of us, yeah.
Yeah. And, she joins in on that, too.
And we make fun of her.
Exactly. So. But I think the moral of the story is when you jump on to play a game, tell yourself, all right, is this the most important thing I got going on or not? Make that decision, because if you think it's the most important thing you got going on, then you need to get something more important in your life.
Then you're addicted.
More video games.
Yeah.
So cool. Like I said, I think we're all in pretty much a lot of agreements here on how they risk it. But like I said, I think that they even on a lot of the studies, they're basically saying there's like between 1% and 9% of people are considered addicted. Most people just have a problem with gaming, or they just game a little too much. But life will self-correct, or you'll just go down in flames, is the way it is with most addictions. I mean, it's all honestly, if you think of anything that's an addiction, if you think of drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever, life will kick you in the teeth at some point, and you either get up and brush yourself off and be like, I better stop doing this, or you're basically like, I'm jumping back on the horse, and the horse takes you even further down the road where you get kicked in the teeth again until you're running down the street with no teeth and you have to gum the soup, and that's where you end up in life. So it's life will kick you in the teeth, and you either learn from it or you just jump back on the horse and go with the flow, so I think we're all pretty much around that. We've all learned lessons from life, and we're all where we are today because of it. And I would put in argument that all of us are pretty successful in life.
Yeah, I would think so. All right. On a count of 3, let's say the name of the person we think is more addicted to video games in our little group.
That's not even cool.
Ready? Nick, you want to join in?
Yeah.
This is so bad.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Nick.
Patrick.
Russ abstained, huh?
Oh, Russ, he ain't gonna get any of that.
Or he's asleep.
Yeah, Russ fell asleep on us. Russ, are you abstaining from this vote? I guess he is.
I think so. All right.
But yeah, I don't think any of us are, in all honesty, that any of us are addicted.
Not to the point where we would,
destroy our lives for games.
Risk those important things in our lives.
And I think we have a support system that any of us felt that way, we would be kicking the other one in the rump.
Yep, pretty much.
So cool. I think we've kind of beat this horse to death. I mean, we're gonna have to call this podcast. We're gonna have to call this podcast a multi-title. It's gonna end up being. It's gonna be addictive video games and
to the addiction.
It's going to be addiction in video games and dating in the digital world.
Yes. How to raise a child, and it's a 3-parter.
Yeah, it's a 3-parter.
Relationships, children.
So cool. So we all appreciate you guys listening to us just ramble on for this podcast, and we hope to catch you guys in the next episode. Until the next episode, catch you later.